Welcome to Innovating Leadership, Co-Creating Our Future. I'm your host, Maureen Metcalf, founder and CEO of the Innovative Leadership Institute, where we help leaders be future ready. Today, we'll explore the intersection of technology, leadership, and transformation by diving into the fascinating frontier acoustic intelligence with Brad Diskin, CEO of SGI, a company pioneering the use of sound as a new signal layer in AI systems. SGI's work is redefining how machines perceive the world, and it has powerful implications for security, fraud prevention, and operational resilience. Brad, let's start with the big idea. So let's delve into why sound is such a critical missing piece in AI and why leaders should care. And how did you get here?
I had an education company where we were teaching children how to read. We did this for 20 years. We had well over 500 employees, and we were teaching kids how to read one-on-one, which is the best way to do this. We brought down a program from Canada, 30 hours of one-on-one teaching children how to read, teaching them phonemes. Phonemes are the core of being able to teach a child how to read. If you don't understand phonemes, you'll never know how to read. A friend of ours took a look at the phoneme tiles, which represent the letters in the English language. And so he saw these on a board and asked, have you ever thought of digitizing that? And we said, yes, we've tried many times, not being successful. So he decided to go take a look around and see who he could talk to. He talked to the top speech recognition team at Google. He asked them about getting the code for phonemes, and they told him that they don't exist. There is no code for phonemes. No one's ever done it. It was abandoned in the 1980s, and it's never going to be done. And that was a call to action from me. If we could find a way to understand phonemes and create a test for kids that we could automate the system. So we went on a global search to find someone who was working on little teeny tiny sounds. And we found Anwar Amajarkesh in England, who was working on spray can nozzles for the British government. He was so good at that, he was able to identify the different manufacturers of spray can nozzles. When we introduced phonemes to Anwar started working on a phoneme ID product. And 18 months into the project, realizing that we would need hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of samples to be able to make it accurate enough. So we pivoted to other products. And so we built a tune detector like Shazam, and then Silicon Valley Bank pushed us over to say, build out voice authentication and deepfake detection. That's what the world really needs. So our passion really started out of teaching children how to read and built into a technology that we believe will have a huge impact on deepfake and problems with fraud in the world today.
And so that dovetails perfectly with the challenges executives are facing across the spectrum, thinking about the risks of deepfakes, AI. And as AI becomes more sophisticated, corporate risks continue to elevate. And what you've created at SGI is a solution to a lot of these issues.
Absolutely. Where we look at the way do we fit into the leadership is how do you want to deploy SGI technologies? Where do you want to see it in your system? Do you want to put the deepfake detector in what aspect? Should that be the first thing that happens to know if it's a real human or if it's a deepfake that's coming into the system? The deepfake gate, as we call it, that would be a really important tool to make sure that it's a real human that comes into the system. From that point forward, we could integrate with their authentication systems. And I give you an example of something like that. Say you're using 6-digit codes, and I do this with Bank of America. When I call in, I need to get access to my account, or they need to verify me, they send me a 6-digit code. And they say, can you please read that 6-digit code? We could add a voice signature over top of that 6-digit code, which would be a very simple and straightforward test to say, yes, that's Mr. Diskin calling in.
So I'm thinking of two specific areas. If I'm in risk and compliance, whether it's cybersecurity or financial risk, I'm doing various kind of risk analyses. Part of the CFO's role, it's part of the CISO's role. So any one of those might consider this as a solution to their risk, not only fraud, but any number of things like identifying in a water line risk of cracking, identifying any number of reliability and breakage issues. This solution is something that I should be seriously considering in my overall business analysis.
So you're looking at a tool that the world has never seen before. This is a way to see inside of sound. So what we've now developed is a deepfake detection tool that is capable of understanding the difference between a human and a speaker or a generative voice. It is machine agnostic. So the deepfake detector would be the guard at the gate that would take a look and see if the signal coming into the system is a true human being. And the reason we can do that is that we know the difference between a vocal cord and a generative signal coming from a speaker. If this is a speaker, it stops that particular audio signal from coming in, and no longer is the deepfake coming in. And so we go from there, where we can now be able to do a voice authentication of a human being. Every human has a unique voice. This is their fingerprint of their voice. We can create an MRI, the DNA of their voice. We see a wide range of applications here for both deepfake detection and voice authentication in the same package.
I'm thinking of a wide range of ways this would be helpful for me as a business leader, and also some ways that I don't like it. Like, I have a digital twin, and I love not having to record videos. I do appreciate having the opportunity to not have to record videos.
We're not trying to stop people from using their digital twin to be able to get their work done. What we'll be able to do is to know if you're using your digital twin or if you're using yourself. So your digital twin will now have a guard, and the guard will be knowing that the digital twin. Not only can we know if it's the digital twin, we'll know it's your digital twin and not someone else's digital twin. So we'll be able to identify it as unique to you. Because of the sound spectrometer and the technology around this, we can track everything from your voice to your digital twin to someone else trying to create your digital twin.
Let's jump into banking as an example. Mom and dad get a call. Susie's traveling and asking for money because she's been abducted by aliens. People are on purpose transferring money because of these deep fakes and frauds.
We are capable of knowing if the signal coming into the system is a deepfake or if it is actually a real human. We can gate that. The agent would know immediately that the signal coming into the system, this is not a real human being. And why do we know that? Coming back to the fact that we can define what the DNA of a vocal cord is. We know exactly if it is a human being or if it is a fake voice coming in. Now let's set up the forensics on this and know, well, let's start finding out, where is that audio signal coming from? Is it coming from the phone number on file? There's all kinds of forensics now that can be put in place based on the fact that we know that that is not a real human voice.
When I call my bank, they know my phone on file. If someone has stolen my phone and calls in and says, I'm Maureen and I want to transfer X number of dollars, with the deep fake detection, you would be able to tell if it was my digital twin doing that versus me.
Not only could we tell if it was your digital twin, we could tell if somebody else created another type of audio signal based on not only if it was your digital twin, even if they had a recording of your voice, we'd be able to know it's not only not your digital twin, it's somebody else trying to mimic you. That's how sensitive the system is, and that's how deeply we can get into the sound profile.
So, from a risk management and a fraud detection perspective, this can be a game changer.
Absolutely. This is the next generation of how we handle and deal with fraud in the system. We have now taken out that concern.
So, what does SGI stand for?
Sound Genetics Inc.
And why is that appropriate to describe what you do?
It's appropriate because we're getting so deep into sound. Deepfake detection, voice authentication is really just the beginning. Sound has a huge set of parameters to it. Your visual system has sort of one octave in terms of its ability to look at light. In sound, there are at least 10 octaves that go down into the sound profile. Our CTO, Anwar Amarjarkash, developed this technology as he's been studying acoustical engineering since he was like 13 years old. He got his first college degree from Cambridge when he was 13. A spectrometer is the ability to be able to separate spectra. What we've done with sound is we've now separated the spectra into, at least right now, 34 different frequency dimensions or frequency orders. So we're going so deeply down into the sound profile, we actually believe we can get to the particle level.
What opportunities does that create for businesses? We've talked about fraud detection. From the level of specificity that you're talking about, there are 100 different use cases.
There's probably thousands of different use cases. One of the use cases that we're looking at right now, we're talking to Battelle out of Ohio. They have servers full of HVAC audio data that has defines what the perfect operating sound is of an HVAC system. We can now design an algorithm, load those algorithms into what we're calling now an acoustic net. We're creating a product called the Sound Net. And these acoustic sensors will be about the size of an AirPod case if you can't see that. So a pretty small device. We actually now have a demo that's available on an iPhone where if we loaded the HVAC sounds on it and it goes off of perfect, now we know it's time to maybe have someone take a look at the system. Or once we got the original sound or the perfect sound from there, now we can take a look at all the sounds going down into the profile to where the system would actually need to be serviced. We could go into car engines. We could go into plane engines. We can go into any kind of machine noises that need to be analyzed to know, let's say if your BMW is all of a sudden there's a fan that's not working right, or something else in the car is not working right. Drones. Let's say if your drone is not working, any kind of machine noise, anything that has a sound. Let's say a building. We want to mic up an entire building with sound sensors. And instead of having cameras, now you're listening to everything in the building. So now if the HVAC system on the 13th floor, all of a sudden you're having a problem up there and there's a rattle or there's something that you don't understand, now you can go and investigate it. And we call this digital audio imaging, which gives us the ability to be able to see with our ears, not with our eyes.
Just thinking again of use cases, I just came back from a long trip and we had people whose planes were diverted for all kinds of reasons. If the airline was using something like this, in addition to tracking preventive maintenance, this gives me more precise data because the part failure rate is based on averages over time, not this specific thing. I actually worked with a missile organization years ago, and they were testing missiles before they went into Desert Storm. The missiles were created not in desert conditions. So parts failed because they weren't designed for desert use.
Yeah, so any kind of sound analytics. So we come in as another way to solve the problem, another way to help. So any other kind of sensors like accelerometer data, vibrational data, heat data, any other kind of sensing devices that might be associated with a plane or with a car or with a train. Yes, SGI Technologies could be on board to give further data, to give us what we're calling audio intelligence. The one thing about sound that's different than any of the other modalities out there is sound never stops. Sound is always available, but we're always listening. So what's loaded on this device, when it's listening, it could be listening anywhere. So let's say, for instance, on a border, let's say we create a sound net along the border. We can create a net, say 30 miles long by 40 miles wide. Anything that walks into that net that's connected. So these things can be connected together. These little sensors, we call them the sound net, can be connected together and they can talk to each other. So as we hear footsteps at a border, we hear people talking at a border, we hear trucks at a border, we hear people approaching a pipeline 30 miles away. And we say, now we need to get to that pipeline. Like, let's say a pipeline in Nigeria where there's a lot of fraud going on, where they're stealing oil. What if the government could have a way to know in advance that someone is getting closer to the pipeline and that there's a truck going there and they're going to steal the oil? We're giving them a digital audio image of what's around that area. Now, these little devices run on batteries and they can run for years at a time. And they will be very cost effective so that they can be deployed anywhere in the world. But we can also use accelerometer data, which is vibrational data, to know what's going on underground. So if someone's tunneling underground, ports, we can say that's a rat. That's not a human in the back of a port. That's a human in the back of a port. We need to go investigate. So we can also load these things on robots. We can give robots situational awareness. They have eyes, but they're deaf. They can't hear. Now we can add the ears to the robot. It replicates the human hearing system. So if you hear here, you hear anywhere behind you or around you, we can create the situational awareness for machines.
So if I think about water systems, because water is one of our right now most pressing resources and will continue to be. So it could identify then where water was leaking.
Absolutely. And I'll give you an example of that. We're actually looking at a potential situation in Canada. Calgary, Alberta, and Seattle, Washington, both use the same pipes for their water systems. They're getting so old and now they're getting pretty rickety. A lot of them are cracking and breaking. In Calgary, in the summertime, when these things break, parts of the city are completely out of water. We could do preventative work on this with our sound sensors and be able to know if it's cracking, if there's a leak, wherever there might be a problem in the water system. Sound as the missing piece. Somehow people have not been really focused on sound.
Every country has infrastructure issues with aging bridges, aging roads. My neighborhood has aging water pipes. It's over 100 years old, stuff breaks. It would be useful to be able to identify potential breaks before they break.
Absolutely. And that's the whole point of SGI is that we're always listening. Everything. We're always listening to everything. That's our job, is to listen to any kind of issues. Healthcare is a big one. During COVID, we actually did a lot of research on cough ID. We were looking at building it, and we were working with a team of doctors in Canada to build a cough ID product. We could define if you have a cold, maybe you've got the pneumonia, maybe you've got some other malady with your cough. So Anwar is now working on the cough. That's sort of his next thing. Respiratory ID. So if we needed to listen to somebody's heart, what their breathing is like, the app from the phone, just go to your neck and we'll be able to get a reading as close as probably a doctor would be able to do with the stethoscope. Now, my caveat is that needs to have FDA approval, and we've looked into that. But healthcare is another area. Anywhere there is sound, like if it's in the human body, if it's in an animal, cattle, the way they chew their cud and the sound of their cud is a very important health issue for cows. And so anything that has sound, we can create an algorithm for it and define it.
Our listeners are mostly leaders. What would you advise for any of our listeners who are saying, that's interesting, but what do I do?
My call to action would be is if you're in fintech and you're looking for a deepfake detector, give me a call. I have a deepfake detector ready for scale. If you're looking for voice authentication married with a deepfake detector, we have voice authentication ready to go to scale tomorrow. We are currently looking for 6 to 8 lighthouse brands to be able to do some testing inside of their systems so they can see, verify, and understand how our system's working. And as Sam Altman has said, in recent weeks, how dangerous it is to have deepfakes out there and that there isn't solutions out there. SGI has a solution.
So I'm thinking of various applications that use drones as an example. Back to my sewer line to check the health of the sewer line, civil engineering looking at health of bridges, those kinds of things. I could drop an SGI sensor or set of sensors onto my drones and my robots, leveraging the investment I've already made that's looking. Now it's going to look in here.
Where we come into that picture is wherever there is a need to detect an audio signal that is a threat, that is something that needs to be defined, like if it is a water break line, or if it's an HVAC system, or if it's a security issue where somebody's walking in an area in a building. Wherever we don't have video cameras, we can always listen. We can always hear what's going on. It's that other layer. The other point about it is that this technology is not a super high cost item.
So I could put a sensor detector and walk around my house and see what I need to repair or my car.
That's correct. What we do, Maureen, is we bring ears to machines. We make them hear. We can integrate with drones. We can integrate with robots. We can integrate with your refrigerator. Sounds of the refrigerator, sounds of whatever machine. SGI technology can be on board to be able to help understand the health of the machine, understand if there's access to something. Yes, my answer to all of your questions is yes.
So if I'm going to buy a new car or a previously owned car, If I'm buying a previously owned house, which most of us do, this could be a layer on top of the home inspector that walks around and makes sure the refrigerator still has doors and is running, but doesn't necessarily tell me that it's not going to be running next week.
Absolutely. If your car was not running properly, yes, we could help define what the problem is.
Multiple applications for not only large enterprise, which I assume is where you're targeting, but also if I can put it on my phone, test my refrigerator, test my car, test my HVAC system in my house.
Absolutely. I mean, there's endless applications there. We've looked at many things. Honestly, I think the most difficult one that we've done so far was voice authentication and deepfake detection. Those two were super complex and took a long time to build. We're even looking at things like understanding behavior. So we can look at age models. We can add this to an age verification system. We can tell if you're a child. We can tell if you're an adult. My mother is 96 years old and she sleeps a lot. She has sleep apnea, and that would be very useful data to listen to her breathing and to get that data and to understand, what's happening with her because her brain works fine, everything works fine, but she will stop breathing for 90 seconds, 2 minutes, and then take a gasp of air, and then she's fine. So this could be used in so many different ways. From its origin, we have what we call application paralysis, where we have so many different things we could go after.
This is just fascinating, and I'm going to try to summarize. The risk of AI has changed the risk profile for many of our companies and our individual lives. And yet, AI opens up so many opportunities that just weren't there before. What you're creating with the sound side allows us to increase physical security, increase awareness of preventive maintenance. On the health side, listening for coughing and breathing and monitor people with chronic diseases. From a leadership perspective, as we're thinking of innovation, how do we leverage the latest technology to solve business risks?
We are also AI, but our AI is built on SGI technology, so it's our AI. Anwar's very interested in listening to all kinds of different things. He's not static. The world of sound is as big as the world of sight and vision, maybe bigger. He's actually loaded into the system the rover on Mars. We've listened to things on Mars that no one even knows are there. We can really see through our ears. That's what we do.
Which again, for our listeners, opens up potential to solve problems that weren't previously solvable in this way.
XGI doesn't want to replace anything. We just want to help make things better. We want to make your security system better. We want to make your health system better. We want to teach kids how to read better. We want to help the world move forward in its process utilizing sound.
Beautiful. Brad, how would people learn about SGI? I assume website, LinkedIn, blogs. So give us that information.
Our website is soundgeneticsinc.com. My email is available on the site. You can reach out to me anytime.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. And to our listeners, thank you for engaging and looking for opportunities to leverage the latest technologies to improve your businesses and improve your impact as leaders. Please like us, share us, follow us, give us good reviews on whatever platform you follow.
Thank you, Maureen, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brad. It's been a pleasure.